Okay, so when you realize that basically we're always trying to memorize our music, like even if you're not trying to memorize your music, you're trying to memorize your music because you're dealing with memory, right? You're trying to be familiar with what it sounds like, with what your body needs to do with the notation, the information on the page, even if you're not going to play it from memory. But if you realize that you're always working with memory when you're practicing, then you can use memory techniques that have been established, that are, confirmed that they work through countless studies that people like doctors use to study for their tests. So here's my favorite memory technique that I think applies really well to musicians, and that not enough musicians realize that this works for them, and it's called spaced repetition. Okay? So spaced repetition is where basically you're spacing out your studying. So the idea is, so you study it, then you take a break, and then you start to forget, right? It starts to come out of your short-term memory. You're not remembering it very well. But then, at the point when you're starting to forget, you go back to it again. You study it again, and you remember it again. It gets refreshed. But then you take another break, and you start to forget it again, but maybe not as much as last time. And then you go back to it again. And this can be over a period of days or weeks or even months sometimes. But what happens is every time you come back, the memory moves more and more into long-term memory. And you can think about it like this. So as you're kind of like sending this cue to your mind that this information is necessary, it keeps coming back, right? And it's coming back not quick enough for short-term memory to remember it. So it's like sending a cue to your brain that like, hey, we need to put this into long-term memory. So think about that. Think about how you could apply that as a musician to the pieces that you're trying to learn. Think about how you could apply that to excerpts or the solo you're working on, right? Because if learning music is all about developing a really good memory of how to play and what the music is, then spaced repetition can help you build that solid memory and move that memory into long term, so that when you go to the performance, your recall of that information is even better.